I think our values ebb and flow through our lives. Things that I valued at 8 are not the same things that I value, but there are some same things that I value, but I wouldn't necessarily say something from when I was 8 years old is missing. And so we find our value, whether it is connection, whether it's education.
Financial independence.
Freedom.
Financial picture.
Independent financially.
Financial future.
Financial freedom and wealth.
Financial independence.
Get your fill. Financial independence and long life. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals, and not just a long life, okay? A long, happy, healthy, fun, exciting, vibrant life. And that's why I'm very excited that Kathy is with us today. Kathy Batista is a really cool person. I can just tell from talking to her for the 5 or 2 minutes before we started. She's a mood, mindfulness, and mindset coach, and she helps women answer the "is this it?" question. Kathy believes midlife isn't just based on age. It's a phase of life, and it can be your best one yet. And I can kind of agree with that. By tapping into your values and strength, you can take aligned action to create purpose and joy, leading to that often missing sense of fulfillment. Kathy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Christine, thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So why do you think it is? What I mean, this midlife thing is real, right, for all of us. And why do you think it happens with women that we just sort of have this? I mean, we normally don't have like the midlife crisis. We go out and buy a Ferrari and, date a 17-year-old, but we do have like that, like, really? And like, what's going on? So why do you think that happens to us?
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of reasons, and it ends up being really personal, but I do think that a lot of it stems from almost we're growing up into a real feminine embodied state where we're like, what can I do for you? How can I make you happy? So whether you had spent the last 20, 25 years raising kids and making sure everybody was all set and the dog and the guinea pig and whatnot, or you've been in the same career for the past 20 years and you've given it your all, right? Above and beyond, like everything. We come to this point where it's like, wait, what about me? What about that, little girl at 12 that was dreaming of what she was going to become? Where is she? Hello, right? So I think that we get to this point of give, 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 give from exhaustion. And we say, wait a minute, there has to be something else, right? We start to feel that pull of we're in midlife, which we then know we're halfway through, right? So then we start to get this feeling of, all right, what am I going to do with this? Like, that precious life you're given.
But also, I think, for women, it's also somewhat biological too, right? I mean, there are actual things changing in our bodies that make us a little more forceful and, right, a little bit more, hey, you know what?
Yes.
Listen, listen up.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. I didn't say it loud enough. Definitely. And that's where I think I love seeing in the media now all this perimenopause talk and information and knowledge that people are sharing, because that's the other thing is, my mom and my aunts and my grandma, it wasn't perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. It was like menopause, and you were like, it was miserable and get ready. And the only thing I knew is your periods were going to stop and you were going to get hot and mean. And then, right?
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, because I often get very irritated when I get hot, but it's that knowledge of learning how it starts, right? And it's that slow decline of estrogen, and we have estrogen receptors all over our bodies, a huge amount in our brain. And so then when that starts to go down, we start to think, okay, something's going on, something's wrong, right? And so that was what my journey looked like. Is it was for me, perimenopause came very early, mid 40s, maybe even, and not knowing what it was, not knowing that it was natural and that it was going to be okay. But just, it's almost like if you don't know something's wrong and then you have a name for it, it really kind of just helps you understand it better. It helps you embrace it more. But you're 100% right, Christine. It is this biological time as well as just this I mean, Carl Jung speaks about it. Like everybody talks about, even astrologers are like at age 26 and then again at 37. Like, it's this time of life that we're transitioning.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how do you, because along with that are some societal things and some maybe also mirror related, or like, oh well, I am sort of sagging, and I am, like they say that we're invisible, right? Women over 40 are invisible because nobody thinks we're hot anymore and things like that.
Yeah.
So there is sort of a, right at the time when we're kind of coming into our power to do things ourselves, there's also the thing that society is saying, like, yeah, you're all set, you're all done, why don't you just sit
Yeah.
down and knit something, so right, there's that battle. So
Yeah.
how do you help people to sort of like embrace that time and realize that, there's nothing wrong with you because you want to do more, right? You're not just like going crazy because you
Yeah.
suddenly have all these great ideas and you want to enliven yourself, right?
Yes. Well, I can, almost unequivocally assure you you're not going crazy. And there is that huge societal shift that we feel, right? And feeling like, so for me, I'm 50 and I have a full head of mostly white, some little black in the back hair, right? It was 47 that I let it go gray. And I think 46 actually, and it doesn't matter, but it, to my friends were so like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I am tired of this," right? And so we get to the point where we're tired and we want to embrace what we want to live and how we want to live and who we want to be and become, uh, really embody that identity. And then when we're met with these outside forces that question us, they're actually blessings in disguise. Because so my coaching model is, it really comes from NLP, which is perception is projection. So I have insecurities. I had insecurities about my hair. So that's what I was looking for, right? So I had this one client who said, I felt so frumpy all the time. And then I went to Italy, and the men in Italy thought I was gorgeous and I wore these beautiful clothes and I had my high heels on. And I was like, when was the last time in America you wore your heels in a pretty dress? It's the
Right.
vibe you're setting out, right? Of course, everyone has a different vibe on vacation, but still, it's that projection. What we're putting out there is what's going to come back to us.
Right.
So if I walk into a party and I go, oh, I'm the oldest woman here, or I'm the biggest woman here, or that is what I'm going to see. But if I walk in knowing my identity and knowing where I stand in my power and knowing what I love about myself and who I want to be, that's what will come out. And it sounds real easy, right, Christine? But there is a lot of work that goes to that. I've been doing it for over 10 years, and there's still times I walk in going, I am the oldest and biggest woman in this room.
But it's that simple truth that confidence is sexy,
Oh,
right? I mean, it
100%.
and right, if you like yourself, other people are just more attracted to you. If somebody says, "Oh, what a pretty dress," they, "Oh, this, oh yeah, well, I got it on sale, and it's a little
Mhm.
bit too tight around the waist." It's like, "Oh, please," you don't want to hear that crap. You say, "Thank you," right? It just,
Yes.
how you think about yourself, whether we know it or not, is who
Yeah.
we're attracting, right? Who we're, yeah, absolutely. So it sounds easy, but it isn't. So how do you help people to sort of become and embrace, because there is a lot of BS about aging, more
Oh,
so I think for women, but maybe that's only because I am a woman. Maybe men are also, that's why they're having, marrying 20-year-olds when they're 72. But
yeah. I also, that's the fun, like, because I don't coach men because I'm like, I don't know what even to tell you. But like, I do honestly think that women probably have it a little harder. But how you start coaching is truly how you do anything is the awareness around it. You have to be aware that you do have that control and power over your own thought process, over your own being, over your own reactions and your own interactions, right? So that's the first step that most people come to, right, is that they come and say, I just feel so blah. I'm so unhappy. Everything feels miserable. Everything is difficult, right? So we really step back and take a look at the awareness and shine light on our individual part in that, right? So that's really the first step. And then the work just branches off into all directions at that point.
Yeah. Do you find that, well, so I'm thinking about my mom, who I feel sort of suffers from a lack of purpose, like doesn't have a really strong sense of purpose now. I mean, she's 84, we can cut her some slack, you know what I mean? But I do think that that's part of the reason that we're unhappy with aging. Do you sometimes help people to discover some new like path that they didn't ever think of or they hadn't thought of for 40 years?
Oh, definitely. When we and talk about society, when we hear the word purpose, we think like the sky's gonna open up and angels are gonna sing and we're gonna know like it's your purpose, right? Like, and it's purpose is really focus or intention. And so when we kind of debunk that heaviness of you're supposed to have a purpose, right? I mean, why isn't your mom helping the orphan children? Like it's like
Why
like
hasn't she moved to,
seriously,
Zimbabwe and
yes. How come she's not building houses with Habitat for Humanity? Right? Like so it's
no
this
excuse for that.
purpose. It's that heavy, heavy feeling. But if we really just make it straightforward and down to earth, and that your purpose is what you are intentionally doing right now, your focus, right? And so that can be her purpose, might be, like you said, it could actually even just be knitting something for her daughter. Or it doesn't have to be these grand things, but it is an intention or a focus. And so we often look at what is missing to find our purpose, to find our focus. And when we can discover what's missing, and that's usually some sort of value that you might have, right? A lot of people talk about you have your top 3 to 5 core values, but I love expanding it because I think our values ebb and flow through our lives. Things that I valued at 8 are not the same things that I value, but there are some same things that I value, but I wouldn't necessarily say something from when I was 8 years old is missing. And so we find our value, whether it is connection, whether it's education, whether it's, actually creating something. And we look at how, find what's missing and look at how we can bring that into your life by using your innate strengths that you already have and that are just really sitting and waiting and wanting to be used.
So tell us about the learning circle.
Oh, the Learning Circle. This is an amazing community that I created for really ultimately it came from a value that I wasn't having expressed, and that was community, right? So I created this community where we focus on nervous system resiliency, mindset work, on mindfulness, and we take and each week we have sessions, live sessions where I teach different tools or skills, nervous system regulation techniques and mindfulness techniques, so that we're constantly in a dialogue of how to use this in our life, right? And we do a book group, we do tons of things that create that sense of learning, purpose, fun, and community. And it's just a fun group coaching membership. Later today, I have a group coaching call with everybody, and we get on, and it's kind of like a popcorn style. And by the end of it, you've been helped and you've helped women, and that's just amazing.
To talk more about the nervous system regulation.
Yeah. So that the nervous system regulation was, so I have a 3 pillar process that I coach from. This third, it's it's the first pillar, but it's the third thing that I discovered on my journey, and that's why I know it's so important, is because I started with mindfulness, and I was like, "My goodness, I can sit here and meditate, but my brain is going nuts, and I'm bored out of my freaking mind." So then I developed some mindset tools to help me with my mindfulness, and so now I'm able to talk to myself, and I'm going, "But what is this? I cannot relax. I cannot calm myself down, right? So then I fell into learning nervous system regulation techniques, parasympathetic, polyvagal techniques, because we cannot do anything unless our body is in a receptive state. And that's what I find most people struggle with is they go, I know what I need to do. I know that, I saw on TikTok that this breathing technique works to focus your mind, but I cannot, it won't work, right? So that's the first step when we're coaching is going, okay, how can we look at bringing your body into a state where you are in parasympathetic more than sympathetic, where you are in a state of rest and digest and calm than in a fight or flight or freeze state more often, because we need our sympathetic nervous system. We don't want to shut everything down and be numb. We want to learn how to walk through this world in a more um, receptive state instead of reactive to everything. So it's really important to focus on that. And I also will definitely say that I am like a 101 girl when it comes to nervous system regulation. I'll get you started, but I have so many resources to send my ladies to if they need or want more.
So what does a normal day look like for you,
Oh,
if there is such a thing?
yeah, right. I feel
I'm
like
thinking more about your morning routine and things like that.
yeah, yeah. So that's the one thing I also love to talk about is everybody harps on a morning routine, and I'm like, okay if you have an afternoon routine, right?
Oh.
Like, if you have an evening routine, that is okay too. If the mornings, like I had somebody who I'm just pushing through my morning, it's my morning ritual. I read a passage from a book and then I journal on it and I sit and I meditate, but the whole time I'm thinking of what I need to get done. So start with what you need to get done and get it out of the way. And then maybe if you have time at noon when everything's done, sit down and then do it, right? It is such, we are in the real world. Let's live in the real world, right? I mean, and so I giggle because a morning routine for me is never really the same thing. It's, oh, it is quiet and it's something, I've got a few minutes here. I'm going to do these exercises or I'm going to pay attention and do some mindfulness, right? I'm going to be in the moment, maybe go for a mindfulness walk. And then there's other mornings that I wake up and it's like, oh my gosh, that handyman is coming at this time to fix the dryer. I can't do anything, right? Yeah. So it's really about that navigation of our life, right? And that's where nervous system regulation comes in, is because it's not about being calm, it's about being regulated. And so if it's going to throw me off that I need to get this morning routine done before I do everything else, I'm not going to be regulated. And the morning routine has served no purpose at all. So it's about learning to ride those up and downs and do what works for you.
Yeah. I think I do feel like when I don't do my little morning stuff that I feel like I'm racing, like, oh, I didn't take my time and do my thing and stuff like that. So I like to start the day off, with my little routine. But you're right. I
Yeah.
mean, I also have a night routine and I have try to go for a walk at, in the middle of the day. So I guess I have a day
Yeah.
long routine. So
Right. That's amazing. That's beautiful. And I think another key part that is important is that it's, even if we need to just reframe, right? If somebody wakes up and the first thing they do is brush their teeth, they can habit stack and look in the mirror and maybe do some mantras or an affirmation. And now you've done something that has made you feel good and has served its purpose, and you can then habit stack off of that through the day. So it's not that if your goal is to read 15 pages of this book every morning but there's days you can't get to it. It's about that fluidity of, okay, I was able to mindfully make my coffee and not rush through it. And I spent that time doing this for myself. That can be your morning routine, and then you build off of it.
yeah, and that's a great point because you want to incorporate things into your daily routine. So, if you're doing deep breathing while you're on the toilet in the morning, well,
Yeah.
that's okay because
Yeah.
you're just taking that time. And even like with the coffee, you're making your coffee, not like, hurry up and cook, but you'd be like, oh, the coffee smells good as it's brewing. And I'm really,
Yes.
happy to be whatever, right? It's just, that's comes right back to what you were saying before about mindset.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
am I approaching my coffee? Or
Yeah.
like,
Exactly. Right.
brew
I
faster.
Right. Yeah. So many times my mom will make her coffee and go, I didn't make it right. And it's like, well, if you were paying attention, if
Yeah.
you're being mindful, but still, right? And so sometimes I know my day is crazy. And so it's always about embracing that pause before you begin something that allows you to step into the mindfulness of it.
Yeah.
So it's really watching the coffee being made, right? You're doing that activity. It's going to take the same amount of time, but you're being present for it. And it does set you off kind of on the right foot, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So how long have you been doing your podcast? Tell us all about that.
Yeah. So I started a YouTube podcast. It's only on YouTube and it's called Teachings and Tangents. And I love sharing all the knowledge that I gain, all the things that I learn from. And I really love this idea of speaking and sharing it and sharing with people. And I had wanted to do a podcast for years. And I was so in my head about it and so nervous. What do I have to say? And I do a lot of podcast interviews, and I'm like, I'm not sure I can be as professional as these people. The whole thing, right? And so one day I'm meditating on it and I'm really leaning into it, and it was like you make it your own. And so the name of my show is Teachings and Tangents, which really allows me to embrace my ADHD tendencies of when I teach, because I often will go off on tangents, or I'll often use metaphors to explain things. And I'm like, just stay with me, it'll come back around, right? I might be on a tangent, but we're going to get there. And so it's just been so fun and really, viewer feedback. Like I had somebody say, I want to learn more about the chakras. So I just did an 8-episode series on the chakras. And
Oh.
then, yeah, so now we'll be doing some body intuition. And it just is so fun to touch on all of these teaching points and learning mechanisms of how we can embrace this time in our life, right? Different ways of really living in our 4 energetic bodies.
But tell us more about the 3 pillars that you use to sort of
Yeah.
help women through their to, from where they're at to where they are feeling like they're on the right path.
Yeah. So the 3 pillars are mood, which is also it's an M word. That's mood, mindfulness, and mindset. So mood really for me is nervous system regulation. When you are regulated, and again, it doesn't mean calm, right? It just means regulated. You tend to be in better moods. We use the emotion wheel a lot to figure out where we're kind of needing some regulation. And so it really boils down to our mood. When we approach something in a open, receptive mood, it's going to happen better for us. We might be more clear that it's not what we really want, right? So that first pillar is mood, which really is that nervous system resiliency, really. And then we have mindfulness. And for me, mindfulness is it's that typical definition of being in the present moment with non-judgment, right? But for me, I love to take it and just make it real life. To be mindful is to be aware and to have that awareness. And then the last M of our 3 pillars is mindset. And that's where a lot of the changes take place, because now that we've calmed our body and our soul through mood and mindfulness, we can get to that mind. We can get to our mindfulness, and then we change our mindset rather, and then we start to change our behaviors, which creates new habits, and our habits are our identity. Everybody talks about who am I? What's my identity? I believe your identity is your habits. It's what you do every day. It's how you identify, right? If you exercise, you identify as an exerciser, right? If somebody smokes, they're going to identify as a smoker. I'm not a smoker. I would never identify as it because I don't do it, right? So it's creating those habits that allow us to step into the identity that we want at this point.
So how about you? Like your life, your future. What are you looking forward to? What are you aspiring to?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, is I don't know a good That's really gonna reel in the views, right? So, you know what? What I've learned, what I feel I've known all along, but the universe has saw fit to show me this, is you can kind of have an outline, but you really shouldn't make any plans because I have 4 boys. Our oldest is 27, our youngest is 18. The youngest we just got off to college. And let's say January, they all had somewhere to be this fall. They all had a home. So we sold our big home that housed all of the children and bought a very small little nice home. And now we have 2 that are back. So yeah,
And they're
right?
living in tents in the
Yeah,
backyard.
yeah. No, one is in, I don't know, one is in my office and I'm in like the sunroom area right now. But anyways, so I think that it's like you can have all these plans, you can have these intentions for what you're going to do. But again, it almost goes back to that nervous system regulation, learning how to go with this flow of life and going, okay, well, that just isn't what's going to happen right now. Or maybe it motivates me to say, okay, I want it to still happen. How am I going to make this happen for myself? Right. But so right now I'm in the soup of that. So it feels very hard to answer that question of what I want for myself. I feel like the rug was pulled out from underneath me. But in a broader sense, I really love helping women find their feel good, right? Find what works for them. When somebody says, I'm not happy, I'm just unhappy, I'm like, all right, we've got this because I was there. I was there like 10 years ago. And now I'm not saying the way I did it is your way, but I've learned so many tools and techniques that I can almost guarantee there's a way that there is, I can guarantee there's a way for you, right? So I love doing this. I can see myself doing this, but I also can see myself in a house with just my husband.
There's an expression that man plans, God laughs.
Right? Totally. Oh, that is it. He's
What did you do
laughing.
before you got interested in coaching?
Yeah. So this is I love this question because this question used to make me feel inadequate and like a failure. But through coaching, I've learned to really embrace the things about me. And prior to coaching, I've done so much. I was never a graduate college, do this job. I have a college degree, and then I've done so many different things, but I love that each aspect of each job and career that I've had has given me experiences that lend itself to help me to coach people. But to answer the question, right before coaching, I was substitute teaching and being a stay-at-home mom. My kids were younger. So that's what I was doing.
Cool. That's
Yeah,
fun. But you can also, I feel like that intensifies that feeling of, the empty nest kind of feeling that all of a sudden you're like, I had this identity and it was a mom and I was great at it. I was a really great mom. But now my kids are older and they don't need me anymore. So now what am I? And a lot of people, have that feeling. So it's
definitely. Yeah. That feeling of it's such a convoluted, intense feeling with children because a lot of women even feel that in the newborn stage. I
wow.
was this and now, oh my God, now I have this like leech. Like it's like, oh my gosh. And then they spend 5 years with this precious little thing. And then the baby goes to school and then you're having this identity crisis, right? And so I'll bring it back to it's your habits. Habits have changed. You're no longer bottles, diapers, playpen, going to the park. Now they're gone and you're going, my habits have changed. I'm sitting here. I feel useless because I don't have any habits to support my identity.
Yeah.
And that's what often happens at all of these stages for women, right? Whether it's, going from high school to college or then college back home. Had some habits that are being interrupted. I feel like I've lost my identity, right? So that is really where we look at our habits create our identity. And when things shift, we just want to be aware and mindful of how we can move through this with grace and ease and figure out what that identity looks like now for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. I feel like we could probably just have a conversation for a couple of days that's enjoyable to you and I, but are there things that a question you would really like me to ask you or something that you want to make sure that people take away from the show?
Yeah, I feel like when someone's listening to a podcast that I'm on, they're mostly looking for their answers, right? They're going, I have a problem, I'm feeling this way, I'm unhappy in my relationship, work is horrible, my kids just left, whatever I'm unhappy. What are the answers, right? And no one really loves to hear this, but I know they're all inside of you already, right? They're already there. It's those outside noises and outside opinions. Well, I really shouldn't want to go to back to work when my kids are 3 years old, right? Like, I really
Why
want to, but I
not?
really shouldn't. So it's those outside voices that are making us feel this way. And so I love to describe coaching to women who are like, and a lot of times we can't articulate it. A lot of times it's like, I'm just unhappy. I'm just unhappy, right?
Yeah.
It's like this languishing, right? And so I like to explain it that, listen, you've got the map. You have it. It's all inside of you. I just have a flashlight and I'll hold
Mhm.
it so that we can see it. And
Yeah.
that's it. It's somebody to help you navigate your path. I'm not creating anything for you. I don't have all your answers, but we work together with your intuitive path.
Yeah. I love the flashlight analogy. That's really beautiful visual.
Oh, good.
So Kathy, how can people reach you if they're like, oh, you're singing my tune. I am feeling so blah. I just need to get energized. I need some shock waves to my system. How can they
Right?
reach you?
Yeah, so I have my website, kathybatista.com. I'm on all the socials at Coach Kathy Batista, and that's YouTube and that's Instagram, Facebook, and reach out. I mean, that's my purpose, right? I love it. Yeah. So definitely, I would love to hear from anybody who is just even curious about what coaching is and how it can help.
So do you have like a introductory call or something that people can kind of jump on just so they can sort of feel what it's like?
Yeah, have a connection call that's on the website. You can click that. But also, if anybody listening wants to try the Learning Circle for a month, we can give them a code in the show notes and they can come and see what weekly mindfulness sessions are all about. We have guest speakers. It's a really fun way to dip your toe into this whole community.
Oh, that's so generous, Kathy. That would be a blast. I don't see everybody should do that. Like right now,
Yeah.
go into the show notes, write down the promo code and sign up because why not? Right? What have you got to lose? Maybe just the blues, right?
Ooh, I love that. Yes,
It just
yes.
came to me.
I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kathy, thank you so much for being with us. I've had a ball talking to you. You're awesome.
Thank you, Christine. Take care.
You too. And thank you, listener, for listening. I know that you know somebody who needs to hear Kathy's voice, who needs to hear Kathy's message. You might not even know a couple of people, maybe even five. So why don't you take a minute right now while you're still thinking about it and forward this episode to them? They will thank you. And Kathy and I will thank you too. And in the meantime, have a great day and we'll see you next week.